I have, I have a Bachelor's of Arts in Social and Behavioral Sciences. I graduated from Cal State Monterey Bay. I went on to get a master's degree in early childhood special education. And then I then went on to a teaching program where I got a teaching credential for to be a special education teacher, as well as a teaching credential to be a general education teacher. And then I entered my doctorate program soon after that. I finished my program. I'm all but dissertation. And if you'd like to ask me what that means later on, or why I haven't taken that last step, I'd love to answer that question. But so understanding that I've been very privileged in the sense that I've had the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of literature and Native professors. So I think that skews my opinion and perspective in regards to Native mascots, and it allows me to see both sides, I think, through a very special lens. So I vehemently stand against Native mascots, and if it comes down to protesting in my hometown, and taking up some type of grassroots stance as members of my community have in eliminating Native mascots on our regulation, I am all for it. And the reason I say I'm all for it is I myself grew up with a very little self-worth. I was very ashamed of who I was. And I had to ask myself as an adult, why was that? Why was I so ashamed or embarrassed of who I was and where I came from? And what I've realized now is when my parents stopped practicing our traditional ways and stopped being connected and then switched to Christianity, and mind you, this is nothing against any religion, it's just my personal experience. And my grandfather became a pastor. My brother is now a pastor in a Pentecostal church. So they had to just disavow, in a sense, every aspect of who we were as Native people. So I was left to completely unsure of who I was, and that made me very unsure and insecure as a teenage girl growing up. And on top of all that, you have media's images of what's perfect, what's the standard. And at the time, as a teenager, 90210 was the big show. You probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but and Tori Spelling and all of these, Caucasian actresses and teens individuals who were playing teenagers, that was the standard in my mind. So I would look at them and look where I came from and thought, okay, something has to be wrong with me. And I looked, my parents loved Westerns, and Natives in those movies were always the savages. And, and I would look at those shows and think, well, that's not us. It's just not us. I said, why don't they talk about, how communal we are, how we come together and share food and farm together and, and celebrate ceremony together. None of that was ever portrayed in any of, media or in the entertainment industry's depiction of Native people. So I think that attributed to a lot of my feelings of inferiority or feeling less than. I, didn't see myself in anything outside of my community. And so I internalized that as being bad. And I think those mascots definitely play a huge part in that. I think it dehumanizes who we are as a people because there's no accurate portrayal of who we are. Most of those mascots are cartoonish, big noses, red in the face. Whereas Native people, we all look different. If we're talking about, I think there's over 350 350 tribes all over, indigenous groups all over the world, and we're all different. And, to try to minimize who we are and well, in other words, tell others who we are or tell us who we're supposed to be, I think is wrong. And like I said, I think that perspective comes from having, the access and the opportunity of a higher education, and realizing and being able to reflect on my childhood and my background, and realize that a lot of this, self-hatred that Navajo people or, people in my community have for themselves is, historical trauma. And so I can see how other Native people may take it as a sense of pride that, the Washington Redskins are, well, they're honoring you, they're honoring who you are as, as nations. But I think that, they've not once stepped foot in our communities. I think at the height of the Washington controversy, I think the owner dedicated, building materials or something to our reservation, but nothing ever comes to fruition in that regard, and there's no real sense of connectedness or a real relationship established. So I'm just not for it, and we'll have. Did I lose you?
Yeah, we're still here, but there you are.
Yeah, my dog tried calling, I'm sorry. I should have told him, no calls, but they're in California. I'm in Memphis, by the way, so we're helping a friend fix up a house, so they're in California, so it's pretty early for them still. But so it's a discussion that I think that needs to be had, and I think at the end of the day, I can't convince you. I realize you have a writing assignment and you have to support your position with research. But I would, at the end of the day, ask yourself, if your child, if all they saw that, about themselves and their culture and their land was put into a cartoon type of form and didn't accurately depict the relationship and the significance of land and community and ceremony, any of those cartoons, is that what you want your children to think is real? And you may have brothers and sisters. I teach. I this past year I taught sixth grade, and most of my students don't understand or realize that Native people still exist and that I'm Native. Because I don't wear buckskin, or I don't have a headdress on, or, I... Camille. Okay, sorry. So, it's, and I think the media and those mascots play a big part of that. Just, dehumanizing who we are.
Yeah. So, they're going to call